we're gonna go pick up Allison now because we're gonna go on a yarn crawl, mini yarn crawl in Vancouver today. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Hi guys, thank you guys so much for being here today. My name is Felicia from Sweet Georgia Yarns, and every Friday I come to you guys and talk about things knitting, things weaving, things dyeing, things Sweet Georgia, all those kinds of things. And we come together every Friday to talk about those. Although last week I did not have enough time to put together one of these vlogs, and so I did it as a live stream. And so I showed this sweater, this finished sweater, on the live stream, but because the laptop camera that I have, the laptop webcam that's there, is really quite terrible, and the Wi-Fi in the attic is also really quite terrible, it just ended up being a really kind of grainy stream. So anybody who watched that, thank you guys so much for watching that. And but here is the sweater in full color, hopefully. Hopefully you guys like that. So it has been a crazy, busy time lately. I feel like I'm always saying that, but it's always really busy. Right now it's especially busy because we're trying to finish up all these things for the School of Sweet Georgia so that we can start letting people in, beginning of September. We're going to let our existing students from our old courses, we're going to let them come in, start at early September, and then starting to invite everybody, the rest of the public, probably mid-September, almost end of September. So there's just still a lot of things that need to get done before that can happen. And so I know that there's a number of you guys who are on a wait list for the School of Sweet Georgia once we relaunch it, and that is wonderful. So thank you guys so much for being on the wait list. Everybody who's on the wait list is going to get a discount when we launch. So if you would like to get your name onto the wait list, you can go to bit.ly/SOS2 waitlist. I'll have the link down below as well. But that is the place where you want to go if you want to put your name down to be notified about when the School of Sweet Georgia gets relaunched and the doors open and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I have been crazy busy with. The other thing that I have been crazy busy with is, well, we've had some guests. So Allison Thistlewood, she is a sales rep for us, and she's been like a longtime friend of mine as well. I've known her since I met her in Toronto, maybe almost 10 years ago, something like that. I was at a knitting night at Let Us Knit in Kensington Market in Toronto, and I met her that night there. And then she came out later on to the studio when we still had a studio on 4th Avenue, and she came and she interviewed me and wrote an article for a magazine. I think it was, I can't remember which magazine, but it was a Canadian magazine, either Chatelaine or the other one, Canadian Living? I can't remember. One of those two. And so ever since then, we've just been chatting back and forth. And so she is a Canadian who moved to London many, many years ago. And so then she became our London Sweet Georgia rep. So this past week or so, she's been visiting Vancouver. She comes, probably about once a year or so. But this year, she's come this summer, and we decided to have a very, very casual sort of barbecue get together at my house with a couple of the people from the Sweet Georgia team. So they came over, and on that evening, she also brought a tiny little spinning wheel that she got through a Kickstarter campaign. It's called the Electric Eel, and it is literally like this big. The bobbins are this big. It's a tiny, tiny wheel, and I think it's been laser cut from wood, and it's all just assembled, and it's super, super tiny, super portable. It's so tiny, it fits into a lunchbox. And so that's what she carried it in. And so everybody got to sort of sit down and have a little spin, have a little test with it. It's an electric spinning wheel, so there's no treadles. And you just crank up the speed however fast you want it, and then you can just sit there and draft. So that was actually pretty cool. She said that it's about $70 US for this wheel. And I'm thinking, you can't get any spinning wheel for that price. That's pretty amazing. It was a little bit noisy, and I'm not entirely sure that an electric spinning thing is for me. Many years ago, I owned a Hanson e-spinner, and then I ended up being really, really sucked into that. It was beautiful, like beautiful wood, beautifully finished. It was quiet. It was fast. It could just spin so much yarn and spin it very, very consistently because it was just constant speed. Everything was constant. And so that was really lovely. But something about it felt very much like I was disconnected from the spinning process. And so that, not getting the opportunity to treadle made it feel like I wasn't participating in the making of the yarn anymore. And so it felt like I was just kind of a cog in the machine of spinning yarn. So I ended up selling that e-spinner to another spinner who used it for a bit, I hope. So anyways, we looked at Allison's e-spinner electric eel. That's what it's called. If you want to go look that up. It's by a company called Dreaming Robots, which is a really cute, really, really cute little name. And so we looked at our spinning wheel, and then this past Tuesday, Allison and I and my kids went on a little yarn shop tour of Vancouver. So many years ago when I was visiting London, Allison took the time to take me around and tour me around to all these different yarn shops in London, and got to see, yarn shops that were tiny, yarn shops that were massive, yarn shops that were half fabric stores and all these kinds of things. And so it was really wonderful to be able to show Allison around to some of my favorite places in Vancouver as well. So I wanted to take you on a quick little tour of the places that we went to. Do you see her? Yeah. You're looking at that shop? We're going to this shop over here. So the first thing we did was we picked her up from the SkyTrain station and we drove out to Point Grey in Vancouver, which is out near the university. So there is a cute little shop out in Point Grey, and it is called Urban Yarns. This is an amazing, fantastic store. So when I started relearning how to knit about 14 years ago, I stumbled upon this brand new yarn shop that was in my neighborhood. And so Urban Yarns was the place where I started to buy all my yarn when I first started. And I remember the first owner, well, she's a co-owner, Anina, and Anina was so incredibly good with customers. Like, she could just remember people's names when you walk in the door. She remembered what project you were making. She was really excellent at this. And I don't know if she noticed that I would come to the store quite often and I wouldn't always buy anything. I would just putter around the store and look at everything and touch everything. And it got to the point where I felt awkward going into the store so much. But it was a wonderful store. And I remember being enticed at the very beginning by a lot of the yarns, like Handmaiden, Fleece Artist. I was a big Rowan fan at the time. I liked a lot of Debbie Bliss yarns. So I just spent a lot of time at that store. So I wanted to introduce Allison to Urban Yarns. Urban Yarns is a beautiful store. So if you get a chance to visit Vancouver, I would highly encourage you to visit Urban Yarns. They have 2 locations. They have that one location in Point Grey and a second location in North Vancouver. It was too far for us to get to the North Vancouver store. And since I'd have to cross we'd have to cross 3 bridges to get to the North Van store, thought it might not be the best use of time, and it might not be the best with, kids in the back seat and things like that. But North Van is sort of like a reimagining, a re-envisioning of what their store is meant to be like. And so they are also redoing their Point Grey store to match the aesthetic of the North Van store, which is like really, it's like going to be neutrals. It's going to be really woodsy. It's going to be really just earthy. I don't know how you describe it. So the next thing that we did was we got together at the studio for lunch with the team that was there, because many of them weren't able to come to the barbecue. So we brought lunch to the studio. So I brought Cardam's Donuts, which, if you are in Vancouver, Cardam's is fantastic. There's 2 big donut things in Vancouver, Cardam's and Lucky's. They're both excellent. So we picked up Cardam's Donuts on the way. We picked up some sushi on the way. And then Allison got a chance to have lunch with the team at SweetGeorgia. And during that time, I had to boot it back to Richmond to pick up my son from preschool, because his preschool was ending, and then come back to the studio and pick up Allison. And so after we hung out at the studio for a bit, and she was looking for yarns for what to make for the mystery knit along that's coming up next, and she's also making a Zweig sweater as well, so she's trying to pick colors for that. Once we finished there, we headed on over to 3 Bags Full. So our studio is between Maine and Fraser, and Marine Drive in Vancouver. So it's like really, really, really South Vancouver. It's as far south as you can get in Vancouver. If you start driving north along Main Street, you'll get to 3 Bags Full. So 3 Bags Full is also a super cute, wonderful shop. It was opened by a mother-daughter team, Francesca and Zoe. And I remember many, many, many years ago when they were opening the store and they wanted to start carrying some of our SweetGeorgia yarns. I remember I was still dying out of my house at that time. So they came to the house and they were in my tiny little office space looking at my IKEA cabinet with like dyed yarns, and they were picking from that. And it's crazy how time flies and how things have changed. So 3 Bags Full is also a super, super cute store. One thing that I should mention that I think is amazing that I did not expect is that both of these stores had toys. They had like a stash of toys to entertain kids with. It's wonderful. So it was the only way that we were able to do any shopping and do any looking around, because otherwise I would be managing kids the entire time and preventing people from, pulling yarns off the shelf and things like that, which is what my kids like to do at my house. So it was wonderful, the fact that they had toys to entertain the kids, so that way we could do a little bit of shopping and browsing and things like that. So at 3 Bags Full, I did end up picking up a couple of things. I picked up a crochet blanket pattern by Church Mouse. Church Mouse is a yarn store that is out in Bainbridge Island in Washington. It's also a wonderful, beautiful destination yarn shop. They also produce a line of really elegant, just beautiful, minimalistic patterns that you can knit and crochet. So I got sucked into this crochet blanket one. It's got kind of like a ripple to it. I don't have it here in the room with me, but it's super cute. I don't know when I'm going to make this blanket, but I was inspired because earlier that same morning, I got news that one of our friends is expecting. So I think I just had baby stuff on my mind and I was like, oh, I could totally make this baby blanket. So I got that, and I got a gleaner. A gleaner, you guys probably all know this. I'm like the last one to know. A gleaner is meant to be used to remove pills from your sweaters. And I've never owned a gleaner before, but I just hear from everybody that it's really, really great and it's something good to have. And now that I'm knitting more and more of these garments and things like that, it might be something nice to have to keep them looking nice and clean and tidy and things like that. So I don't really know how to use it yet. I still have to figure that out, but I'm kind of excited about that. So we did that at 3 Bags Full. And then after that, because I know Allison is also a sewer as well. She likes fabric and she's done quilting and all these kinds of things before. And so we booted over to Spool of Thread, which is by Kingsway and Fraser. So it's in this cool little spot where there's also it's literally surrounded by taco shops in that area. So we frequently go for the tacos. We don't always go for the fabric, but we always go for the tacos. But Spool of Thread is in that little area, and it has expanded since the last time that I went to visit this store. It used to be just one skinny little shoebox, and you come in the front and there's fabric, and then you go into the back and there's sewing machines that you can use during classes if you're taking classes there. And then when we went to visit the store, I noticed that they have now expanded into two sides. So there's they've doubled their space and doubled the fabric. It's really quite wonderful and amazing. And all the fabric that they carry is it's really contemporary. It just feels like really, really modern quilting fabric. All the designs are really not cutesy cute. They're just nice and cool. So we did that. And then luckily right next door to Spool of Thread is Matchstick Coffee. So this is also a fantastic, wonderful coffee shop where they do a lot of the pour over coffees, and it's it was a great place to have kind of like a pick-me-up. And so that was quite late in the afternoon. My kids were this close to melting down. So I took Allison back home downtown, and she was going to continue doing some shopping and some sightseeing and things like that. But that was our day in Vancouver, touring around the yarn stores. If you guys ever want to come visit Vancouver, I have lots of recommendations. You can always feel free to email me about where to eat, where to visit, come to our studio, come to other yarn shops, taco shops, sushi places, coffee shops. At one point in time, I used to write a little bit of like food blogging things on the Sweet Georgia blog. This was a long, long time ago, until I realized that it wasn't really appropriate to put food blog stuff on a knitting blog. But in any case, I have a lot of these kinds of things that I love and I love to recommend. And so, yeah, if ever you guys are coming to Vancouver, please drop me a line, let me know, and let me know when you're coming. That is it for this week. I am just catching you guys up on what's been happening in the Sweet Georgia world, in the School of Sweet Georgia world, in the knitting, not knitting world. I have been working on that sweater for Nina. It is almost done. I'm halfway down the first sleeve. I have just a tiny bit more to go, and then I'm going to start on Russell's sweater. Thank you guys so much for being here this week. I really, really appreciate you guys watching these videos, watching and hearing about, what we're doing in the Sweet Georgia world and things like that. If you like this kind of content, please hit the like button. And if you would like to see more videos like this every Friday, please hit the subscribe button, and I will let you know when there are new videos online. So if you would also like to join our School of Sweet Georgia waitlist, please head on over to the link that is down below in this page, and I guess I will see you guys in the next one. All right, bye for now.